units of the Syrian army restore security and stability to several villages in the northern countryside of Latakia and defeats the infiltrating terrorists. Al-Maliki of Iraq says that the war against terrorism is open and will continue for a long time because it is a world war of a new kind. And Syrian expatriates in the United States in the state of Pennsylvania hold celebrations of solidarity with the Syrian army and victims of terrorist crimes. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian Arab television in Damascus. President Bashar al-Assad received this morning the General Secretary of the Mauritanian Socialist Democratic Party, Mahfouz Ould al-Aziz, in addition to Deputy of the National Front Party leader Mohammed Mahmoud al-Talba, and head of the Democratic Socialist Party, Asalkaw Ahmed Omar, and the General Secretary of the Vocational Unions, Abdullah Saleh al-Sharif of Mauritania. President al-Assad stressed that Syria welcomes all honest and constructive efforts to find a political solution to the crisis in the country, but at the same time is determined to confront terrorism and uproot it. Syria is capable of doing that, according to President Assad, due to the unity between the Syrian Arab army and the Syrian people, who are full of belief in the homeland despite the pressures. The President noted that the importance of the pan-Arab parties, unions and Arab popular organizations in fostering the Arab people's awareness towards the schemes hatched to divide the region by pushing it to a chaotic war for the benefit of the Zionist enemy. For their part, the delegation members stressed that Syria was and will always be paying for its pan-Arab pioneering role and its support for the resistance facing the projects that target the Arab nation. Sources from the so-called Syrian opposition and Western intelligence and diplomatic sources admitted that the Saudi regime, in direct coordination with the U.S. intelligence, has recently provided new amounts of weapons to the armed terrorist groups spread in areas in southern Syria. Reuters quoted a source in the armed terrorist group linked to the Western-backed Supreme Military Council as saying that the armed groups have started using Concourse anti-armored missiles they recently acquired from Saudi regime. The Saudi-financed missile shipment arrived in the last few weeks through Jordan Middle Eastern security, diplomatic and armed group sources cite the direct role of Saud family member Salman bin Sultan, a nephew of the Saudi ruler Abdullah and senior security official, in supplying the weapons to the armed groups in Syria. Moving to Iraq, where the Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki asserted that the battle against terrorism is open and will continue for a long time because it is a world war of a new kind. He warned the states that nourish the terrorism that their future would be difficult and that they would fail to disrupt Arab resolutions. He added that we would never remain silent about murder and endangering the security and stability of our country while others live happily. We would never allow our youth to become food for sectarian plots. Terrorists who have infiltrated from the village of Al-Husn at night committed a savage massacre near the village of Ain Joz in the countryside of Homs, killing 14 victims, including women and children. A military source said that army units restored security and stability to Al-Khamisiyya village in the eastern Ghouta, Damascus countryside, eliminating dens of terrorists there. The source added that huge quantities of weapons and ammunition were confiscated and several explosive devices planted by terrorists were dismantled. Earlier, army units restored security and stability to Al-Qarya al-Shamiyya in eastern Ghouta. Going to Latakia, where units of the Syrian army restored security and stability to several villages in the northern countryside of Latakia after defeating terrorists who infiltrated into those villages and committed acts of murder, theft, sabotage, and attacked innocent citizens. The army killed dozens of those terrorists, some of whom came from Tunisia, including Abu Abdullah al-Maduki, Hamza al-Maslati, Usama al-Masalati, and Ahmad Najm. During a search operation by the security forces in al-Assad countryside, a store of weapons and ammunition was captured in a farm in the village of Al-Daba. It contained 2 anti-aircraft missiles, 2 machine guns, and 23 automatic guns with explosive devices and various types of ammunition. In related news, in the farms of As-Sukhna in Palmyra countryside, the security forces also captured a storehouse used by terrorist gangs to hide stolen things sent to citizens in the eastern area, such as fuel, wheat, and barley. In the countryside of Tel Kalakh, in Homs, security forces captured large amounts of ammunition in one of the terrorist hideouts. These included large amounts of mortar shells, the ammunition of heavy and automatic machine guns. Along the highway between Deir ez-Zor and Palmyra, Syrian armed forces chased the terrorist gangs which planted a number of explosive devices on that highway. They also repulsed another gang that tried to infiltrate into the industrial quarter in the city of Deir ez-Zor. Health Minister Dr. Saad al-Naif opened 2 health centers in Al-Qtailbiya and Hmimim in Jabla area, Latakia province, after the centers were restored and refitted in cooperation with the Al-Bustan charity. Al-Naif toured the 2 centers and inspected their equipment, and he also visited Jabla Hospital and Al-Hafi Hospital, witnessing work at them and inspecting their services. In Al-Hafi Hospital, the minister visited injured army personnel, wishing them a quick recovery and affirming commitment to providing them with all necessary medical services. In a statement to journalists, Al-Naif said his visit to Latakia aims to inspect the state of health sector in the province, which hosted many displaced people, asserting that there are no pandemics or epidemics in Syria and that registered cases of communicable diseases are within normal limits. Afterwards, Al-Naif visited an army checkpoint in Latakia's northern countryside, accompanied by Latakia Governor Ahmed al-Sheikh Abdul Qadir and Secretary of Baath Party branch in Latakia, Muhammad Shlitah. Within the context of supporting outstanding persons in sheltering centers, the Governorate of Damascus, in collaboration with the Syrian Secretariat of Development and the Syrian Society of Social Progress and the Society of the Nuns of the Good Shepherd, honored the outstanding students in the basic stages of education in the center of Talhat Abed in Az-Zahira. The celebration included the distribution of gifts and artistic shows in support of the students harmed by terrorist crimes. Syrian citizens in Allentown in Pennsylvania held celebrations of solidarity with the people harmed and victimized by terrorism in Syria. They greeted the Syrian army of their homeland. The celebration was joined by all Oriental Christian churches and the state of Pennsylvania. The speakers expressed gratitude of the Syrian citizens to the struggle of the Syrian army against the terrorist plots supported by the US and the Gulf regimes, which give their citizens nothing of democracy or human rights. The Little Tourist Festival was opened in the citadel of Damascus to include theatrical, artistic and cultural performances. The children of Al-Ba'ath Vanguard also presented 2 performances under the title Syrian Panorama and National Mulawiyah. Minister of Tourism Halil Nasser pointed out to the national spirit of the Syrian children who presented a drawing of the Syrian flag. A distinguished child spoke about the national sentiment of the Syrian children who witnessed the treatment of their country, which had hosted refugees from the nearby countries and helped them during their difficult times, while some regional and Arab countries tended to arm the terrorists with weapons to kill Syrians. An exhibition and many workshops are held as part of the festival. The 4th photography gathering was held in Al-Assad under the title Pictures Inspired by Literature. The gathering is organized by the Department of Fine Arts in the Ministry of Culture in coordination with the Cultural Directorate in Al-Assad. 10 artists from different governorates participated in the gathering, presenting their photos and reflecting the high level of creativity in catching the ideas of different works of literature and turning it into pictures. With this, we come to the end of our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details, you can visit our website, www.syriaonline.sy. Stay with us after the break, the latest in the world of economy and finance in our economic news. Damascus. President Bashar al-Assad received this morning the General Secretary of the Mauritanian Socialist Democratic Party, Mahfouz Ould al-Aziz, in addition to Deputy of the National Front Party leader Mohammed Mahmoud al-Talba, and head of the Democratic Socialist Party, As-Salkaw Ahmed Omar, and Syrian expatriates in the United States in the state of Pennsylvania held celebrations of solidarity with the Syrian army and victims of terrorist crimes. Good afternoon, this is News in English from the Syrian Arab Television in Damascus. Units of the Syrian Army restored security and stability to several villages in the northern countryside of Latakia and defeats the infiltrating terrorists. Al-Maliki of Iraq says that the war against terrorism is open and will continue for a long time because it is a world war of a new kind.